For the record, the State Highway Commission is assembled in the auditorium at NDOT headquarters in Lincoln, Nebraska. The date is Friday, January 16th, and the time is 8:30 a.m. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the room. Please respond to indicate your presence at today's meeting. Commissioner McGinnis?
Here.
Commissioner Mello?
Here.
Commissioner Hawks?
Here.
Chair Wolford?
Here.
Commissioner Leafgreen?
Here.
Commissioner Koppel?
Here.
Item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the December meeting.
I'll move. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just one correction there. The date on there says the meeting was in August, should be December.
You got that.
Okay. Are the motion and a second okay with that as amended?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner McGinnis?
Yes.
Commissioner Mello?
Yes.
Commissioner Hawks?
Yes.
Chair Wolford?
Yes.
Commissioner Leafgreen?
Yes.
Commissioner Koppel?
Yes.
Okay. Not aware of any announcements or introductions today, so we'll move on to the director's remark. Director Kramer.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to start with a few agency updates. First, I want to formally recognize Marissa Keene for being our new Secretary for the Highway Commission. And as we move forward, get the opportunity to understand how we're going to continue to work together. That being said, I know we do. And we're hoping to have an update for you at the next meeting. In terms of agency staff, we also have a new chief counsel with us. Nicole Bogan you had the opportunity to meet. And so Nicole will be backfilling Jeff Schroeder as he transitions into retirement. So we're very thankful for her service and very, very thankful for Jeff's ongoing service with us. And so thank you again, Jeff. With some of the projected retirements we have over the next year or so, there will be some changes to the agency structure. I'll have more information at our next meeting, but I did want to make you aware that we will be advertising for a deputy director of operations in the next week or so. And so that will be internal and external, but that will round out our executive team as we move kind of into the next phase. So again, we'll keep you updated on that. We did get some good news this morning, and so the S&P has reaffirmed our AAA rating, and so this speaks to the Highway Commission's diligence as we stood up our bonding program with the department and with the legislature, and so this is a very good day and something that you should be proud of in terms of how we have transitioned into an innovative finance state and how we have managed moving into debt service. And so I want to formally thank Len Heaton for his work on this area, as well as Jeff Schroeder for making sure that we had a strong program and we were communicative with the industry and so that they understood and we could get the best possible rating that would make the best possible interest rate for the agency. So we do hope to be able to have an announcement on the timeline of 275 and what this issuance means for us. And we'll be laying that out next week with the governor on Tuesday. So good news for the department. Shifting to not so good news, we still don't have an answer from the federal government in terms of what will happen with the CR that ends on the 30th. So we continue to work with our Federal Highway Administration and others so that we can understand what the impacts will be. What we understand now is we'll go back to what we were in the previous shutdown, to where we were managing our funds in almost a week by week basis. So we're not completely shut down, or the department doesn't lose all federal money, but it does slow us down for how we will be moving into the construction season. So not a best case scenario, but it's not as dire as it could be. We do continue to see progress on 327. So this is NEPA assignment. You'll remember, several of you were with us when we went through 326 assignments, have seen significant positive impacts from being able to have the ability to manage the environmental in-house. And so this would be taking it up a step to be able to handle EAs and EISs. So those more complex projects, we would have the ability to permit ourselves. So When we went through 326, it was a several-year process in order to deal with the deficiencies that the federal government saw within our program and to be able to earn the right to take it on through an MOU. This process has been expedited given the fact that we have a lot of sophistication within our department because of 326. So we expect to be able to sign that MOU on 327 in February. So next month, we've been working with, and I spoke with the Federal Highway Administrator earlier this week. We expect to see the administrator either here or we'll have the governor sign it in DC. So more to follow on that, but speaks volumes to our environmental staff and our management staff for being able to work through this so quickly, as well as our partnership with Federal Highway. We do not have answers yet from the feds. There's been a bit of a hold on a lot of the grant structures coming out. So we don't have answers on the Regional Accelerator Program or a few others that we have pending. We have seen the most recent build announcement come out, and we have seen how that impacts some of the bridge programs as well. And so we're hoping that we'll have good news this spring as the Trump administration starts to process those grant applications. I've been very happy with Jody Gibson and our local assistance team. Jenna has done a wonderful job standing up our infrastructure hub, and we've got several applications that look very competitive that we've been able to help our local governments on, 2 of those being bridge bundles. And so this will be really the time in which we understand what the impact of the infrastructure hub will be and the impact of it going forward. So we'll keep the commission in the loop as we understand what that looks like and as those grant applications get answered. Ryan Ballack will have a presentation later on legislation and what we can expect from this legislative session. Most of our attention will be spent on 594, which is the hands-free distracted driving, as well as LB 600, which is work zone enforcement. We expect progress on 594. Governor has lent his support, and it's very important to him that we do find a way to make our roads safer. He'll go over some of the statistics that we've seen out of Iowa and other states that do back the research that we have, that this will make our roads safer. And in a year where we did see significant fatalities, 227 to be exact, we want to do everything we possibly can to make sure that our roads are safer. For winter operations, we've been surprised at the lack of need. And so I do think it'll be helpful to have Ben Merchant give us a bit of an update just to get into, hey, if we start to see winter operations take an increased need, what does that look like and how prepared are we? But I will say that there's 2 different aspects of not having to run winter operations. The department saves money, but also our guys are missing overtime. And so we look at both of those very carefully to understand what the impacts of the agency are. But for us, it's our roads are safer, less fatalities because of weather-related incidents, and also we're saving money on materials. And so it's good news for all, but Ben will have an update on where we are. The last piece I wanted to update you on was the Highway Safety Office. You'll remember last year we talked about some of the changes in our Highway Safety Office. So we did relocate some staff and move some staff around. Been very happy with the leadership we've seen there. We've also been looking and working with that new leadership on the effectiveness of where we put grants, both on the micro grants level as well as in our law enforcement grants. And so you'll see some changes in this area as we move forward. We are going to start communicating that with law enforcement, but for lack of a better way to say it, there's going to be more accountability within our Highway Safety Office and how we spend those funds. We want to make sure that our law enforcement agencies, when we give that money out, they are doing their best to patrol those areas and to influence based on what that grant agreement says. And so we'll be working with our communities on that. So just understanding from December 12th through January 1, we did have 29 law enforcement agencies and NSP participate in the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign. So want to continue to encourage law enforcement to lean into that and to look at highway safety as an opportunity to increase their enforcement actions. So with that, Chair, I will turn it back over to the commission.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to old business, highway naming, and we have Matt Neiman.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to come and follow up on these naming applications that we heard back in December. One new application and then the update of an existing name. So I'm going to flip these two and talk about the Hollis Stabler application first. Nebraska Department of Transportation routinely consults with the federally recognized tribes through the government-to-government relationships to preserve historical and cultural tribal resources, to recognize the Omaha tribal sovereignty and cultural preservation, to promote respect for their tribal cultures, and to recognize that Mr. Hollis Stabler has been honored and received the Medal of Honor by the Omaha tribe. NDOT recommends approval of naming State Highway 94 from Pender to Walt Hill, the Hollis D. Stabler U.S. Army Ranger Highway.
Motion for the approval of naming Nebraska Highway 94 from Pender to Walt Hill, Hollis D. Stabler, U.S. Army Ranger Highway.
Okay, so,
So moved.
Second.
okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I guess I'm just gonna make the statement, this is outside of our policy, but the difference is this is on a reservation and we're dealing with a different government entity. And that's why this recommendation is being made by the department. So everybody understands that. Let's move on. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes.
Commissioner Mello,
Yes.
Commissioner Hawks,
Yes.
Chair Wolford,
Yes.
Commissioner Leafgreen,
Yes.
Commissioner Koppel.
Yes. Motion carried.
The second one, the Nebraska Medal of Honor Highway. Manual and Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or MUTCD, promotes consistency and advocates clear and uniform guidance. Its core purpose is standardization of traffic control devices around the country. It's in the interest of uniformity and consistency and to align with the NDOT highway naming policy and the National Medal of Honor Highway Act of December 17th, 2024. NDOT recommends the approval of the US 20 Memorial Highway name change from Nebraska Medal of Honor Highway to National Medal of Honor Highway. This recommendation includes the update of all 12 currently installed signs statewide.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Okay, there's motion and second. Any further discussion? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes.
Commissioner Mello,
Yes.
Commissioner Hawks,
Yes.
Chair Wolford,
Yes.
Commissioner Leafgreen,
Yes.
Commissioner Koppel.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to new business. The first item is winter operations update by Ben Merchant.
All right, good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for the opportunity to come talk to you about this important topic. My name is Ben Merchant. I'm with the Operations Division here in Lincoln. I recently took that role on. Previously, I was in the District 4 Operations Division section. So glad to be part of this new role and have some information for you about winter operations. And what I really want to focus on today is just our readiness, how we prepare for winter storms, and then kind of how we tackle winter storms as we go through the season. And I'll also give you a little bit of an update on our equipment and our materials that we have available to us. So let me see if I can make this work. Okay. So we consider winter operations season kind of that October to May time period. We want to be prepared for winter storms between October 1st and May 1st. Obviously, this winter has been unseasonably quiet, which we're thankful for in a lot of ways, but also excited to get to work. Our people love to do their jobs and they do them very well. So we are prepared if the weather shifts to jump right in. As we get ready in October for our winter season, we always prioritize getting our material storage all the way filled up. So that's one of the things that is an advantage. We have our material contracts that are available to us year round, but we do get a discount on our salt if we order it in the summer months and give the vendors a longer kind of period of time to deliver that material. So we always prioritize trying to get the best price for our salt, and that means we try to fill those storage facilities up over the winter time or over the summertime, so we're prepared for winter. And then we also work on our equipment. We have to convert our trucks into snow plows and get them all set up and calibrated to do what they need to do for winter. We have a lot of electronic devices across the state. We have dynamic message boards. We have gates that are automatically activated. We have camera towers that help us keep tabs on what's going on. And so all of those devices have to be tested and make sure that they're functional. And then we do focus a lot on training going into the winter months, because often we have new employees that need to acquire their CDLs and be trained on how to actually operate the plow. So there's a lot of work that goes in the fall months leading into the winter so that we're prepared to tackle the storms that start coming up when the winter starts. Another thing we really focus on a lot is our coordination efforts with both other states, our adjoining states. We meet with Wyoming and Colorado and Iowa and South Dakota and some other states in our vicinity, so that if a storm impacts the border areas, we can coordinate our efforts across state lines. And we have really focused on making sure those communication lines are established so that there's a seamless effort between the states. And we also coordinate through our traffic incident management groups and in other contacts that we have with our local partners, our state patrol partners, local law enforcement, emergency responders, emergency managers across the different communities, so that when the time comes that we have an event and there's a snow emergency, that we're all on the same page and responding together and doing the best we can to have seamless coordination with those agencies. So once we get into the season, I'll talk a little bit about the districts are the front line. Obviously, they're the ones that have the plows on the road and are managing the storms. Our operations division does facilitate and coordinate efforts across district lines. If there's a particular part of the state that's more heavily hit, then we do move resources around the state if we need to assist those areas that are more impacted. And we also, operations and the districts work together if we have to do some major closures of highways, if the interstate is impacted and shut down. Operations helps with the communication of that, the coordination. We communicate with our NEMA partners in the event of a disaster declaration. We coordinate with FHWA for notifications so they're aware of what's going on. And another partner that we've really invested a lot more in the past couple of years has been the Nebraska Trucking Association. Has been a good partner for us to help. We give them information about our just what we're experiencing with a storm, and they communicate out to their members so that there's just good communication and expectation of our highway availability and our conditions of our roads to try to, we just feel like communication is the best tool we have to help people make good decisions on whether they should be on the road or not. We also really depend on our National Weather Service partnership. We have local offices in several communities that we communicate with constantly when a storm is coming in, and we have some technology tools that we use to communicate with them. We do often schedule webinars, or the National Weather Service schedules webinars, and we participate in those. So they're giving us up-to-the-minute forecasts and status changes of any storm that's coming in. So we can make the best decisions to get resources where they need to be before the storm starts to impact us. So we really try to keep that partnership as tight as we can, and we have the ability to chat with them live. We can make phone calls to them anytime we need to kind of get updates on what the storm is doing. Also want to talk a little bit about our operations center in Lincoln, or in Omaha. This is the center that kind of manages our traffic. They monitor the cameras that we have. A network of cameras across the state. They are the staff that are responsible for activating the dynamic message signs if they need to have messages. And another big thing they do is they maintain the 511 messaging. So if there's a road closure, they update the 511. If there's road conditions that need to be updated, the districts update the road conditions, but the operations center staff kind of monitors that and makes sure that's being attended to. And then they are also just constantly sending out messaging to the districts so that everybody is aware, and they communicate with administration and operations about kind of what's going on with any given storm, so that everybody's in the loop and we can all make good decisions. and communicate what our status is through these storms. And then they also monitor our state radio system to make sure it continues to function properly. This is a picture of our 511 website. And one of the things I wanted to point out today is one option we have on this that we've been pointing people to is you can put a username and password in this. You can create an account and you can set alerts so that if you want to have a certain part of the state where you want to know if a road closes, the system can be set up to alert you. And any user of our highways can set this up. This is open to the public. So this is something that we've been promoting just again for more visibility to the public, more communication to the public so they know what's going on. And a lot of our messaging that when we talk to the public about what's the status of our roads, we try to point them to the 511 as our source of information as much as possible because we really try to keep that as up to date as we can. It's our best source of knowledge. And we do have a network of cameras. I mentioned this across the state. You can see a picture in the middle there of how many we have. And we are actually increasing this number a little bit over the next couple of years to fill in some holes. But these are a tool that we use a lot to monitor the conditions of our road. In addition to our supervisors being out on the highway, we can see these cameras live and it tells a story of what a particular storm is doing and where things are happening. I'm going to briefly talk about our hours of operation in our districts. We have a lot of our highways, I-80, for example, our freeways. We do man and staff those highways with plow trucks and staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if there's a storm going on, there's plows on the road if at all possible. But we do have some highways that are lower volume areas where we don't have the staff to man them 24 hours a day. So we do have to shut our crews down for overnight hours for them to be able to rest. So we have some secondary roads that are lower, like I say, lower volume highways that we don't maybe have any overnight plowing, but that's kind of how we structure ourselves. So that's our hours of operation. Then I'll talk a little bit about our closure practices. So there's kind of two approaches we take when we have to close a highway during a winter storm. One of them is kind of our more traditional reactive closure. If we have an incident on the highway, if there's a crash, if the road conditions deteriorate to a point where it's not safe to drive, we will react to that condition by closing a road for safety, to keep our people safe and to keep the public from being stranded and to just minimize impact and threat to life. And so we do have to do that occasionally. A new type of closure that I won't say it's new, but something we've been doing more, putting more effort into is what we call our preemptive closures. This is where we try to really pay attention to what the storm is doing and figure out the best timing, when we expect a road to be impacted. And we try to get the road shut down before we have incidents start to happen. This works when we have a really good forecast. If our forecast confidence is high, and if the time of day is right, we can shut the road down before we have a lot of crashes. And that really, it's a better way. Ultimately, it ends up with less downtime on the highway because we're not responding to cleaning up wrecks. We're not having to rescue people that might be stranded, those types of things. So this is the tool we've been using more and anticipate needing to use it more. We think it's a good way to protect the public and make sure that our roads get open as quickly as possible. We get reestablish mobility as quickly as we can. And there's a lot that goes into these closures as far as if we close the interstate at a community, we have to monitor that community so that it doesn't get overwhelmed. Because if you have traffic from I-80 that's just pouring into a community, we have to be in touch with their emergency manager in that local area to make sure that we, if necessary, if they start to fill up on hotels or truck parking, or if they start running out of fuel, then we'll roll that closure back to another community that has more space. And so we have to monitor that. Our staff is in touch with our local emergency managers to monitor that situation. And communication is, again, the work that we do to establish those communication lines is critical to helping us be successful with these. And then when it's, once we have a road, once the weather conditions pass and we're ready to open the road, we do look at the weather and we try not to wait until the road's perfect. We want to kind of make that balance between, is it safe to drive on this road, but we can't wait for perfection because we want to get mobility reestablished as quickly as we can. So there's a lot that goes into deciding when we need to open and what the right timing is on that. It does require a lot of resources to open gates on the interstate, to pull barricades off. So it takes time to open the road. And one of the things we've found about opening is we have to be careful how we communicate when we're going to open the road, because people's expectations, if we say we're going to open the road at a certain time and we don't meet that, then we have a lot of congestion at the ramps, people waiting to get on the highway. So we really kind of work through that carefully. We hold it pretty close to ourselves if we're going to open a road until it's actually open, and then we let people know so they can resume their travel. Okay, and then a quick overview of our equipment and products that we have available. We do currently have about 736 at last count trucks that are in service. That number fluctuates based on breakdowns, and as you can imagine, a lot goes into keeping our equipment operational, but that's about what we have available across the state. We are utilizing more tow plows now. There's a picture of a tow plow on the screen here. This is a device that allows us to plow more than one lane at a time. So they're a good tool for us for efficiency, and so we are deploying more of these across the interstate corridor, especially. We have quite a few on the road already. We're going to continue to expand now where it makes sense. We also have 23 blowers in service this year that these are big snow blowers that are self-propelled that can move a lot of snow. And we have 23, and we do often move these around the state to the areas that need them. So if we have a particular section of the highway or of the region of the state that is heavily impacted, we'll move most of our blowers into that region to assist with that cleanup. And then for materials, salt is our main bread and butter that we use every day. It's effective in a lot of temperatures. We have about a 240,000 ton capacity that we can store across the state. That's currently at about 200,000 that we have currently on hand. So, which is enough really to get us through the season, unless it's unseasonably, if something really changes, then, we'll have to order some peak salt, but that should get us through the season. And then any that we use this season, as I mentioned before, we'll refill over the summer. And then another tool that we often do use, it's a tool in our tool belt. We have a lot of liquid de-icers that can be used for certain conditions when weather warrants. They are a good supplement, and in some areas they're more broadly used depending on the regional knowledge of the staff and the ability, and the way the winter weather patterns regionally work. So we do have liquid de-icers available to us if we need them. And so that is our equipment and material availability currently. And then I did want to mention, this is a message that we try to communicate to the public as any opportunity we get. When our plows are on the road, if we can get, the more space we have to work, the more effective we can be. And so we just ask people, and we message this as much as we can, don't crowd the plows when we're on the road. It's tempting for vehicles that are following a plow at 30 miles an hour to want to pass that plow, and it really creates an unsafe situation. So we ask, we do ask for the public's assistance as much as we can on the safety front to help us out and give us room to work so that we can keep our trucks in service and get the road open and get mobility reestablished as quickly as possible. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any
Thank you, Ben.
questions for Ben?
I just wanted to add, go ahead, Commissioner.
You mentioned your staffing there several times, and I know being representing Western Nebraska and up through the Sandhills, I guess I'm just curious, because it's in a snow event when your weakest spots show up, but how is your staffing going? I mean, do you have most of your positions filled?
We have improved in the past year. We still have openings. An agency this big is always going to have a percentage of openings. We also have a percentage of staff that we've hired in the past year that hasn't been able to acquire their CDLs yet. So we have people in various levels of training, but compared to this time last year, we are in a much better position than we were.
Sure. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Another thing that we have at our disposal, you probably know, we have our maintenance staff that does the snow removal and the maintenance of the highways every day. And we also have construction staff that's responsible for construction inspection work, managing the projects that we have. Our staff that are managing construction are also trained CDL operators. So when we need to have drivers fill in those 24-hour routes, or when we need support in different areas, we can call them in. And in a lot of districts now, it's becoming routine for our construction staff to be assigned routes. So there's a dual purpose happening there with those employees. And that's really helped us out a lot too in terms of manpower.
Great. Heath?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, thanks for the presentation. Some really, really great information that I didn't know about. So thank you. Kind of a question just in terms of with all things you do operationally in your division, how is the division utilizing AI tools to assist with decision making or gaining efficiencies right now?
We are on the cusp of that. Right now, we have not implemented any AI tools officially.
Okay.
But I know there's conversations happening on the state level, on the enterprise level,
Okay.
To look at that. But right now, our operations division doesn't have any AI tools implemented.
So I'm gonna maybe ask Mick to come up and talk about our relationship with Samsara. This is an area where we've seen a lot of opportunity. We've just procured a new system that does provide some promise to how we could use machine learning and AI applications. I know AI is kind of the talk of the town right now, but there are different areas where we've seen technology really improve our business. Everything from MDSS being implemented several years ago into what we're doing with Samsara now. So Mick, you want to talk a little bit about Samsara?
Yeah, so Samsara, good morning, commissioners. So Samsara is a product or a vendor that we utilize that has the ability to have devices within our vehicles. It captures things like speed, seatbelt usage, location, those kind of things. But they're starting to use AI more and more. And so instead of just say a tracking type of an implementation where we keep track of our snowplows and where they're at, it also has technology utilizing cameras. And with that too, they actually have a large industry, the fleet out there, the commercial fleet, the Warners of the world, where they utilize cameras on there to help them manage their system as well. And so we're working with them to maybe utilize those camera systems in which, as they're driving down the road, those cameras are recognizing things along the roadway, such as a guardrail being hit, a pothole, congestion, those kind of things. And so they're working to kind of build that out a little bit. So we're trying to partner with them a little to understand what that can do for us. Obviously, we still need boots on the ground to help us manage that and assess what we need to do there. But what we're finding is that maybe we can get to the hot spots. If we're seeing an area where we do have guardrail being hit, or we have an area where we know we're monitoring it from a maintenance side, but all of a sudden now we've had some potholes blowing up and popping out, that could trigger us to say, hey, we need to send some folks out there to take a look at this quicker. So we're starting to manage those kind of things. As Vicki kind of alluded, there's a little bit of caveat and a little bit of with AI, you have to be cautious of what's out there and what it's being used for. And so there's a lot of like, hurry up, let's use it, but careful how we use it. And so we're still working through some of those ramifications with the Office of OCIO. But other than that, that's one step that we're looking forward to.
Great. It's exciting. Thank you.
Yes, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got a quick question for Ben. Couple things. Do you have real time on 511 for where your plows are or have gone? For some of these outstate, they would know that there's a plow coming down the road or not.
We have very near real-time data on our plow tracker, yes. And we also, as Mick mentioned, there's cameras on those plows. They're taking snapshots every so many seconds. And so not only can you see the location of the plow, but you can click on the plow and see an image of what that plow is seeing as a forward-facing camera.
Okay. The other question I have is, do you ever hire out or go to independent or go to contractors or go to private sector to do any extra work for you? Or how do you keep track of what they're doing?
Private sector plowing, we do have some limited roadways that have some contracts with local vendors to do plowing on, say, a frontage road or some things like that. We looked at that a few years ago, doing some more widespread contracting of our plows, and we found that there wasn't good response from the industry in terms of them being willing to come help us with that. I think we had a contract that we put out that didn't really get any bids, so we did not get any bids. So we've examined that, and that's something we do watch, but we don't currently have a widespread contract for snowplow.
Thank you.
If I could,
Sure.
so I wanted to bring up two different instances before I get into more of a large scale kind of enterprise I-80 level update for the group. So as you look at your role as commissioners, a lot of times Mick and I are having conversations with Tom and Ben in real time about how do we open a road if we have a significant closure. And there are times where we will call you as a commissioner and ask for contact information because you never know who we could be trying to get a hold of. For example, in Omaha, we had a situation where we had the longest closure that I've been in recent history, and it was due to a down power line. And so I don't believe OPPD was tracking the significance of that down power line until we had a conversation all the way up to the CEO level. And so making sure that people are aware of the impacts to the economy, to transportation, to freight. When we do have those closures, we may lean on you to help us make sure the community understands that, but also to make sure that we understand what the community needs out of response times. And so we had a significant issue several years ago to where it was a food security came up, both in the dairy industry as well as in the poultry industry. And so if you're hearing from your businesses that there is a road that needs to be opened or there needs to be a prioritization of those areas, our districts know those routes and they practice those routes and they have conversations with those routes. But there are times where things shift and we may need some of that impact. And so we always welcome that coordination with the commission and would welcome you communicating that through us so that we can make sure we have real-time information. On the preemptive closures, this is really something that I think we have been a bit reactive to. And as long as I sit in the seat, we'll continue to stay open and keep the I-80 open as long as we possibly can. That is the goal, to keep freight moving as safely as possible. But there are times where we've seen, most recently, Wyoming really shift their policy into preemptive closure. And a lot of that has to do with the kind of Elk Creek passing area. And when that goes down, there is no good solution. And so those closures back up pretty quickly. Iowa has leaned into preemptive closures in the recent history. And so for us, we are kind of in that area where we are looking at what is the benefit and what is the cost to the traveling public in terms of safety. And so we do look at that and coordinate with those other states. Plow Tracker is a good example of how the public can get this information. I really appreciate, Commissioner, you bringing that up because it is something we've put a lot of effort into. The goal is that there is increased expectation management for the public, right? That they understand what risks they're taking if they go out on the roads. We always want them to stay home, but this is something that as a country and as an owner of a large corridor, significantly looking at I-80, we've got to figure out what this means for us. So as freight traffic travels from one end of the country to the other on I-80, how do we increase the expectation of the group? And so we as an I-80 coalition are looking at this. We have a SMART grant out of Nevada that we're looking at the interoperability of I-80, mostly looking at AI tools and other things that we can do to increase the technology, whether it be through sensors, IoT type technology advancements, or what can we do to increase truck parking. And we are seeing a lot of these solutions come to market. And so we'll keep you updated as this advances, but this is something that we think could increase national security, could be used to look at food security and other things, but it's something that we'll continue to lead the way on.
Okay. Other questions?
Oh, the last thing I will say in terms of equipment, we'll typically use our EMAC agreement with the Nebraska Emergency Management Agency. So last year or the year before, we did borrow two blowers from South Dakota. So that's an easy way that we can increase our capacity or our capabilities if we need to.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the legislative update with Ryan Ballard.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Ryan Ballick. I'm NDOT's Government Affairs Manager. I'm here to present an update on the 2026 legislative session and kind of where we're at in the legislative process, as well as the bills that have been introduced so far that are of note for the department, and then also the department's legislative priorities looking through the next year. To start off, just want to give you all a quick summary on where we are in the legislative process. Today is day 8 of the 2026 session of the 60 total days. This year is the second half of the legislative biennium for the 119th session, which means that bills introduced last year might carry over to this year, which, as Director Kramer mentioned, include LB 594 and LB 600. I am going to primarily focus today on the bills that have been introduced so far this session rather than the bills from last session, but there are a couple updates that I'll include as we continue to progress through the session. They'll bring up more debate on those bills from last year, and we'll have more updates for the commission at that time. So far, about 400 bills have been introduced, which is lower than what we typically see in a year. But as I mentioned, they have through day 10 to introduce legislation, so we might see a influx over the next 3 days. While the process of identifying bills that we're going to testify at or track over the session is still ongoing, there are a couple of groups that we're looking at generally that we wanted to inform the commission about. This includes bills that have effects on legislative oversight of the executive branch, such as LB 776, LB 799, and LB 977, which all really have to do with reporting for contracts and different types of fees and fines that agencies have. And creates reports that go towards the legislature. This also relates to LB 1048, which is a bill from the governor's office and has to do with legislative reporting for NDOT specifically. That has to do with the Rec Roads program that we manage with the Game and Parks Commission and the 1 in 5 year program report that goes to the legislature every year. Another bill in this group, LB 905, has to do with department operations and specifically concludes the merger of the Board of the Board of Examiners for County Highway and City Street Superintendents onto the Board of Public Roads Classifications and Standards, which was begun last year with LB 346. As we mentioned, highway safety is always a priority for the department, and especially during the legislative session. And so in addition to those carryover bills from last year, LB 594 and LB 600, we've also seen a couple introduced this year, which includes LB 874, which provides criminal enhancements for crashes caused by distracted driving, LB 977, which relates to animals being herded along the highway, LB 991, which allows for the use of school bus stop arm cameras for enforcement, similar to what we attempted with LB 600 last year. And then finally, LB 1005, which is allowing for ATV use within corporate limits of cities or villages after dark. NDOT also continues to monitor any bills that have fiscal impacts to the department, so really those affecting our revenue sources. So this includes both the governor's budget bills, which were released yesterday, LB 1071 and 1072, but then also we receive a portion of sales tax through the Build Nebraska Act. And so any bill that has an impact, either positive or negative, sales tax exemptions, we track those and provide fiscal notes on. And some some bills in that group include LB 757, 848, 849, 865, and 1023. And so we'll submit fiscal notes on all of those as they either bring in or reduce the amount of sales tax coming to the department through the BNA. Finally, there was one advancement on a bill that we were tracking from last year, which was LB 207, which creates a new registration fee for commercially registered motor vehicles. We saw that advance from the first round of debate to the second round of debate earlier this week, and there was a positive fiscal impact towards the department from that we calculated last year. For what it's worth, this list of bills that we talked about is still very tentative. As I mentioned, there's 3 more days that they have to introduce new bills. And as we discuss this with NDOT leadership and with the governor's office, we'll identify the department's positions on all the bills that we plan to testify at. But that is generally what we're looking at so far in terms of bills that have been introduced. And this then brings us to the department's legislation, which is yet to be introduced, but will be coming shortly from Senator Mosier's office. An omnibus modernization bill with some cleanup elements and a focus on financial and alternative delivery. So some of the items contained in this bill include a new approach to innovative finance. We've talked with the commission about your role in the bonding process. What this bill would do is allow for the creation and capitalization of a state infrastructure bank, which is like a revolving loan type program that extends borrowing authority to political municipalities throughout the state for transportation projects. This is, yet to be capitalized, but we anticipate potentially TIFIA from the federal government, which would have a more favorable rate than what the political subdivisions can get through other types of bonding. And then would also allow for bundling of projects. If a couple different counties or cities wanted to come together, could all get a loan through that program and then be able to deliver that project in a more efficient manner than, waiting for 10 years to save up the amount to then deliver that project. But then this has a similar role with the commission as a administrative body with help from the department, similar to the bonding program. The bill would also clean up some provisions related to LB 1016 from 2022 to expressly allow availability payments and asset concessions under currently authorized public-private partnership statutes, a removal of the historical reasonable criteria from progressive design build statutes, which is a rule that we haven't seen in any other state and their statutes, and then also a authorization for unsolicited public-private partnerships in our statute. Finally, there's some cleanup elements to it. This comes from our traffic engineering and operations divisions. This includes both the crash report forms that go to traffic engineering and an update of bicycle traffic signal in statute to reflect the manual on uniform traffic control devices. And then lastly, a update to our permit and procurement process. So it includes an update to overweight and overdimension permit fees for large commercial motor vehicles. Currently, they're capped at $25, which is much lower than what we see in surrounding states, especially for very heavy vehicles over that 200,000-pound mark, which requires significant engineering to determine what routes they can take, and looking to update that and create a new category in statute. And then we're also looking at removing pre-qualification requirements from some types of maintenance contracts, particularly that work outside of the right of way, so mowing and landscaping. There's a lot of small vendors that aren't able to pre-qualify for various reasons, and that discourages the number of bids that we're getting from those groups. Turning back to LB 594 and LB 600, as Director Kramer mentioned, really wanted to just share with you all some statistics that we've seen on the effect of hands-free distracted driving bills in other states. Obviously, very glad to have the governor's support. He's been very vocally in support of the bill. Very recently, we saw Iowa pass a similar hands-free bill. Went into effect with warnings only in July of last year, and then shifted over to actual enforcement in January of this year. But in the first 6 months of their bill, we saw a 37% reduction in fatalities, and it was their 100-year low for fatalities observed on as a result of crashes in the state. And while we can't attribute all of that to their law specifically going into effect, we've seen similar results in other states, namely Ohio, Colorado, have had, as much of a 20% reduction in fatalities associated with distracted driving after the implementation of their laws. And at this time, with what we've seen in similar states, so Iowa, Louisiana, a couple other states recently passing this law, Nebraska is now only one of 3 states in the nation without a hands-free distracted driving bill or a primary texting and driving law. And so we've seen this evidence, very clearly in other states, and have seen the governor and Senator Prokop really pushing to move this bill forward during the remainder of the biennium.
Ryan, would you explain what that means, what the bill actually says, what you can and can't do, what it's going to make illegal?
Absolutely. So what's the difference between this bill and current law? Under the current statute, texting and driving is prohibited, but it's only a secondary enforcement, which means an officer could observe you texting and driving and not be able to initiate a stop for that reason. So they might see you speeding and pull you over and notice you were also texting and driving and could issue a citation for that, but they can't actually initiate the stop. So that is what is meant by primary enforcement. The hands-free element is, as I mentioned, right now only texting and driving is illegal, but what we're seeing more and more, I think it's currently 32 states have hands-free laws, which mean any handheld use of the phone for whatever purpose it may be. You might be talking on your phone and holding it like that would be illegal under the law. And this is really to ease enforcement for the law enforcement officers. It's very hard for them to prove whether someone was texting and driving or doing something else on the phone that might not be specifically prohibited. So this shifts it to simply they observe you using the handheld device, but don't have to prove for what purpose. And so this would be a hands-free bill that has primary enforcement.
So what you're saying is somebody has a cell phone in their hand, that is illegal, but if somebody's using the car's
Exactly right.
hands-free, that is legal.
Exactly. And so there would be exceptions for a device that's mounted with a hands-free device. So you'll see the cup holder things that have the, stands, or any use that's activated by voice is also allowed, or things that can be done with a single touch are allowed under the bill, but it's just the, continued use on your hand while you're looking down that's specifically prohibited. And if there are any other questions, happy to answer them for the group.
Thank you.
I had one question.
Sure.
The alternate delivery, Matthew, you said there's some additional responsibilities that fall on the commission or not? Did I mishear that?
For the innovative finance, the State Infrastructure Bank would be officially owned within the commission and then with administrative help from the department, similar to what we've done with bonding. So my understanding is that the vote would come back to the commission to approve loans that are issued through that State Infrastructure Bank, but that structure is still being determined, and, Vicky and Lynn may be able to.
So
provide
this
more
would be
info.
loans to a couple counties. They would have to bring it before the commission for approval.
So the way that we're categorizing TIFIA is it would be within a bonding structure because that's the way we would need to do it under the Constitution. So the idea is that we would go after a rural TIFIA loan and we would capitalize the bank with that. So in that, we would have a list of projects that would be approved. So we would come to the commission, we would have a conversation about how much we were seeking in rural TIFIA. It would be a process. Kind of a much longer process than what we do with bonding. But the difference with rural TIFIA is you're at half the treasury rate.
Okay.
And so what we'd be looking at is here's the program, it'd be a programmatic as opposed to maybe just one or two projects.
Okay.
So here's the program and kind of the book of business that we would be looking at addressing through rural TIFIA. We would lay out what the loan program looked like, terms and conditions, and then we would move through. But we think it's appropriate for the commission to play a role since it is debt service.
Would it be state projects or community projects? Or
So
both?
So state projects, you are looking at, well, I should say it like this, federally eligible projects because TIFIA is a federal program. And so this is our first step. Many states use TIFIA. Probably the most like state in this situation would be Oklahoma's use of rural TIFIA to improve the safety of their roadways through a rural shoulder program. And so for us, we see this as an opportunity to potentially help local entities building off of what we've done with the infrastructure bank. So with the infrastructure bank, we have a book of projects now and that is needed that we are going after federal funds for grants. Well, if the federal grants don't come, there is no money to build these projects. So what is the role and how could we be of assistance to move these projects forward? This is a way to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're not done yet.
You're fine.
Other
You're
questions?
fine. You're fine, Ryan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're fine. You did a great job. Great update. I was just going to share kudos with the director and the department in terms of kind of the bold proposals. I think, as you just described, utilizing more innovative financing and alternative delivery mechanisms is exactly, I know, what the commission talked about in terms of our approval of the bonding a year ago. And so kudos to you, kudos to Lynn and the team in terms of really pushing the envelope in terms of modernizing options for the department and the state.
As we've had conversations with the governor's office and with our legal counsel and the AG's office, I believe that this is a good year for us to fully understand the intent of the legislature, our authorization under the Constitution and under statute for what we can do with borrowing, and also better understand the will of the people in terms of what they want to see us do. Projects are just getting more and more expensive, and our needs in terms of modernizing the infrastructure are significant. So if we want to be able to complete the MTIS program, if we want to be able to continue moving forward with some of the projects under the next 10 of the Build Nebraska Act, what are we going to have to do and how are we going to modernize our system and our capabilities in order to make it happen? So we'll continue to keep the commission up to speed. And from our standpoint, as we move forward with debt service, you'll be a part of that conversation.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the Highway Commission calendar. Marissa?
Thank you. Commissioners, at the last Highway Commission meeting, you were given a proposed calendar for 2026. It is structured the same way as 2025 with a meeting at NDOT headquarters in January and December and 4 program hearings throughout the rest of the months. We have identified 2 Fridays, each in March, June, August, and October that we can decide between. The draft is for your discussion and formal vote for approval today.
Comments?
Do we give you our suggestions of what days we want? Is that kind of the
I think
approach?
we just need to pick the Fridays for the 4 state meetings and be done with it. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter to me. It's far enough ahead. We need to know so as commissioners, we can plan and keep that Friday open.
I'll just share, I have only the rest of the year looks fine, except one, March and May. I just have the preference of picking the last Fridays that you picked, which March 27th and May 22nd would be my preferences, but the rest of the calendar doesn't really open to anything else.
Yes,
My only one would be August. I would like to go with the first Friday, the 14th, instead of the end of the month.
Okay,
Puts it closer to Labor Day.
other comments? We just need somebody to pick the October meeting and we're good to go.
District 4.
Whose district is that in?
District
District
4,
four.
which is open right now.
Okay.
We could keep that open, Sharon.
We'll let staff decide.
Mhm.
In October, should we let staff decide on that one? I'm fine. Go with the last as we always do.
We can go with the,
Yeah.
yeah, pick the 20, okay? So the 27th of March, the 22nd of May, the 14th of August, and the 23rd of October.
Are we going to discuss locations?
Usually the
locations are listed for what district it'll be in, and then
commissioner and the district engineer usually pick that and inform us where it is.
Okay.
So, that means you need to pick a location fairly soon for.
That's why
your district.
that's why I was asking.
Ah.
I think it'd be good to have it in Columbus.
Okay.
That would be my preference.
It's a great. What is it? So for everybody.
What did he say?
Because Highway 30 is completed, so I think it's a
Okay.
good thing.
Okay,
So the item in question is the approval of the 2026 calendar meeting dates as follows. Friday, March 27th, 2026, Friday, May 22nd, 2026, Friday, August 14th, 2026, Friday, October 23rd, 2026, and Friday, December 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
okay, motion to second. See no other discussion, please call the roll.
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes.
Commissioner Mello,
Yes.
Commissioner Hawks,
Yes.
Chair Wolford,
Yes.
Commissioner Leaf Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Koppel.
Yes.
Okay. I assume you will work with the commissioners and the district engineers and get locations selected and
Yep.
just notify us when that happens.
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the election of the 2026 officers. Historically, we have been rotating with the party of the governor, the chair, and the party not of the governor being vice chair. If we followed that same rotation, Commissioner McGinnis is the lucky one up, and with 2 empty seats, it would fall to Commissioner Mello for vice chair.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner McGinnis,
Yes.
Commissioner Mello,
Yes.
Commissioner Hawks,
Yes.
Chair Wolford,
Yes.
Commissioner Leaf Green,
Yes.
Commissioner Koppel.
Yes.
Okay. That was the point where we can have public input. Is there anybody that wishes to address the commission on? Seeing none? No remarks from the chair, so move on to public meetings calendar.
The Nebraska Department of Transportation has 4 public meetings scheduled between now and the next Highway Commission meeting. NDOT will hold a public hearing concerning a proposed amended regulation regarding 411 NACA 1 MUTCD. The meeting will be held here at the Nebraska Department of Transportation Central Headquarters at 1500 Nebraska Parkway in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the Communications Conference Room, room 105.1, this Tuesday, January 20th at 9 a.m. NDOT will also hold a public information open house meeting regarding the I-80 Sarpy County Interchange Project southeast of Gretna. The meeting will be held at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church at 11204 South 204th Street, Gretna, Nebraska, on Thursday, February 12th from 5 to 7 p.m. NDOT will also hold a public information open house meeting regarding the Fort Street Blair High Road project in Omaha. The meeting will be held at Davis Middle School at 8050 North 129th Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska, on Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Lastly, NDOT will hold a public information open house meeting regarding the 50th Street I-480 project in Omaha. The meeting will be held at Buena Vista High School at 5616 L Street, Omaha, Nebraska, on Tuesday, March 24th from 5 to 7 p.m. The next scheduled meeting is March 27th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. in Columbus, Nebraska.
Okay.
What are they doing 50?
No further business. We are adjourned.